with the first phase of face-to-face classes resuming on Monday, the 7th of September, there is expected to be an influx of learners traveling from and to different regions to resume classes. However, there has been confusion surrounding the issuing of permits to returning learners to the lockdown parts of Okahanja, Windhoek and Rehoboth. Joining us on the line is the Ministry of Education spokesperson Absalom Absalom to shed more light on the issue. Very good afternoon to you, Absalom, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon, Jonas, and as well as the listeners at home. It's a pleasure to have me here.
Firstly, Absalom, just walk us through how this process is exactly going to work, the procedure of what parents and guardians should take to apply for a travel permit for their children.
All right. So the state of emergency regulations for stage 3 allows for the reopening of schools for the face-to-face learning in a phased-in approach. So while observing the health protocols as well as the COVID-19 pandemic prevention measures, the Ministry of Education, Arts and Culture has released a public notice or other guidelines set to provide guidance relating to the travel from and into restricted areas as well as areas with community transmission for teachers and other staff, students, learners, their families, as well as for the educational institutions. Now, the given notice that I've just issued is twofold. For departures, all teachers and other staff, learners, students, as well as family members who are departing from restricted areas, or those escorting them from restricted areas, must obtain the relevant travel permits from the nearest police stations, which are issued by station commanders. While knowing one's COVID-19 status before travel is the gold standard, due to limited testing capacity as well as the prolonged turnaround time for the release of results, COVID-19 testing is not mandatory prior to the issuing of travel permits for teachers as well as learners, students, and other family members departing or escorting them from these restricted areas. I think it's also important to know that besides which, minors cannot be quarantined without guidance, and to quarantine all learners departing from the restricted areas and their families is an impractical undertaking. So basically, the number of COVID-19 confirmed cases among the school-going age demographics has also remained relatively low in Namibia. However, the risk of COVID importation from these restricted areas to non-restricted areas is significant. So hence, all infection prevention control measures must be observed at all times. And I think for departures, we also have the issue of entries. All teachers as well as the staff members and learners and students as well, including family entering the restricted areas, should obtain travel permits at the nearest police station, just similar to those of departures. And no testing as well as quarantine is required. However, I think it's important to know that travelers should take note of the risk involved in acquiring a COVID-19 associated with entry into an area with community transmission. So I think in a nutshell, whoever needs to travel into or out of needs to obtain a permit at the nearest police station issued by station commanders. Of course, the supporting documents that are needed. If it's for a student, you need to get a confirmation letter from a school indicating the enrollment of such a child, as well as identification document for that learner. And if you're a teacher, equally you need a proof of enrollment by the school, as well as your supporting documents when you apply for a permit.
Absolutely. We understand that some parents who queued up at the Vanaheda police station to get permits reported that the police seemed a bit confused when issuing these permits. Is there perhaps a breakdown in the chain of communication with all the stakeholders that are involved to ensure that the whole process is a smooth one and also to hasten the process?
Yes, we do take note of the shortcomings that had come from our side of the ministry in communicating with the various stakeholders, including the police station. But as of today, we will issue a public notice with our stakeholders, the police included, which will also guide them on what to expect when parents as well as learners come to apply for a permit. That shortcoming we do acknowledge. The notice is ready. We should issue it today, and it should guide them on how to go best forward.
And is this information also being circulated on the different platforms, on radio stations, on social media, and all the other avenues that you have at your disposal?
Yes. As we speak currently now, our team is busy distributing this notice further. It will be available on the ministerial website as well as our social media platforms, and we'll make it widely available for anyone that would require it. But as today, we'll aggressively make sure that all our stakeholders do have this public notice that I've just referred to.
Now, currently, as it stands, the stage 3 regulations of the COVID-19 stage 3, it says that, not more than 10 people can gather at a place. How will it exactly work when it comes to schools, or does that not apply to learners?
All right. So the stage 3 regulations under stage 3 allows, or rather gives an exemption to the reopening of face-to-face in that aspect. And the regulations are very clear. There's an exemption that has been given out. I think similarly the same exemption applies to work environments where you would find a gathering of more than 10 people. So clearly there is an exemption under the state of emergency regulation stage 3.
Because the reason why I'm asking this question is because there are cases where some schools are very, very overcrowded and where social distancing is almost impossible.
All right. I think with respect to that, I would like to bring your attention to the fact that we have different school environments and demographics. Now, depending on the various situations the school faces, they are likely to adopt various means on how to go about best navigating those situations. There are instances where schools will opt to craft their timetable in a way that allows them flexibility to ensure that they have different cohorts of learners at the school at that given time. And you also have those ones who will possibly employ the time-based cohorts, which basically allows for different grades to come to school on different dates, which then also minimizes the number of learners on the school ground at a given time. So I think schools have been given the authority to be flexible in their planning and also how best they can go about the issue of ensuring that learners do adhere to the social distancing aspect in addition to other measures in place, and they can do that in collaboration with the school boards as well as the schools itself.
Lastly, Absalom, there have been talks that private schools have challenged the directive to phase in face-to-face classes and decided to start all classes on Monday. Can you please provide some clarity on that?
All right. We have received notices from all private schools association on their intention of commencing with classes on Monday. However, to that effect, as a ministry, we have sought legal advice from the Office of the Auditor General, and we should expect that advice later on today. In addition, we will also have our Executive Director at the NBC COVID-19 update show to shed more light on this matter. So as for now, we have sought for advice from the AG's office, and we expect that advice today, and we'll communicate accordingly with the various stakeholders on what is the way forward come Monday.
Absalom, thank you so much for your time. Tough road lies ahead for both you and all the stakeholders involved, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.